Connectivity is no longer just communications. It is in fact key to Malaysia's growth. Introducing the National Fiberization and Connectivity Plan, a 5-year plan that aims to bring robust, affordable and accessible high-speed internet to all Malaysians. This way, we can all enjoy more economic opportunities and a higher quality of life. U-Mobile fully supports NFCP and wants to enable all Malaysians to realize their unlimited potential. Find out how at u.my/NFCP.
This is a download from BFM 89.9, the business station.
The BFM Breakfast Grill, connecting you to the top people and ideas. Presented by U-Mobile.
I am talking this morning to Area Putra Ismail, the Chief Executive of SME Bank, and also he's the Chairman of the Association of Development Finance Institutions of Malaysia, otherwise known as ADFIM. Arya, thank you for talking to me. Let's start with the government stimulus plan, and I guess what transpired to be essentially insufficient funding for the SME sector. There were a lot of complaints from the SMEs saying that not enough is being done by them. Was there a misunderstanding between the governments and the SME Association? What do you think was the reason for that gap?
If you look at, there are three stimulus packages been announced by the government for the past 1-2 months. The first two, the government has assisted about 250 billion, worth of financial assistance, be it on direct fiscal spending, and the rest will be in the form of moratorium and so on and so forth. And for the past few days, the Ahmad Muhammad Prime Minister has announced the additional 10 billion financial assistance direct to the SMEs. So the first two packages are focusing on M40, B40, where we all know that they are badly affected when some of them have been, laid off and couldn't get a job, and to sustain is an issue. But that has been addressed as far as I'm concerned. Then the 10 billion is basically direct to the SMEs. We're talking about 7.9 billion worth of wage subsidy to the PKS or SMEs from micro up to medium, and then they also will be receiving 2.1 billion worth of grant to this micro SMEs. So I think financially is sufficient. It's just what they need to do after receiving that kind of assistance and going forward. That is more critical for us to address. They should be looking at beyond financial assistance. The beyond financial assistance that I'm talking about is the training given by various agencies under the government. We have MIDEC, we have MDEC, we have MAGIC, we have InScan, and for SME Bank we have SEDA that available around the clock to assist entrepreneurs to prepare themselves to face bigger challenges post COVID or post MCO upliftment.
Correct. Arya, but I think the issue is the delay. Why didn't the government do it in the first place under the second stimulus? Why did they have to wait to be reacted to and complained through by the SMEs before they responded with the 10 billion ringgit?
Actually, when the government has announced, and together with Bank Negara announced the SRF, the Special Relief Facility, as far as the bank is concerned, I think all banks have been working around the clock to facilitate all applications to make sure that the fund can be channeled timely. So I'm not really sure, what kind of expectation by the SMEs.
I guess that's the root of the problem, because when you talk to the SMEs, they are the ones who are saying, look, we don't borrow money to fund operations and to fund costs. They borrow money to grow. So to offer the SME sector money to borrow, even at 3.5%, which is lower than 3.75% initially, the SMEs wouldn't take it up unless they're very, very desperate. And I think in other cases as well, some SMEs complain that the amount of documentation and the process was too cumbersome because they need money tomorrow, they need money today. In the Singapore example, with the wage subsidies between 25% to 75% of salaries for up to 9 months was exactly what the SMEs needed. Why didn't Malaysia follow those kind of avenues? There's a disconnect, I'm saying, between the government and the SMEs.
Actually, in terms of financing, if you ask me whether should they get financing to sustain their businesses, I think they need because there are a lot of things that they need to do to sustain the businesses. When especially when during this MCO, and the government has asked all the businesses not to lay off their workers. So definitely they need funding. I do agree with you, Chong. Normally people need funding to grow, but the SRF or grant and other financial assistance given by the government is to combat the current issues that they're having. That's the first thing that they need to do. Whether their capability to pay back in the future would be an issue, I do agree with you. That's why they need to work hand in hand with the bank.
I think the Credit Guarantee Corporation was fast to respond, but the banks themselves, when they came back to SMEs with a lot of requirements, I think 9 bullet points of documentation and all those things, they don't have the resources to deal with the flood of requests that is coming through. I mean, this is people in banks that are telling me this. Why wasn't the amount of process lowered, expedite the distribution of funds?
Yeah. Actually, when the SRF had been announced, to be frank, all of us was operation unprepared, because this was announced in the midweek 2 weeks ago. But gradually we have seen improvement by all banks to shorten the process, and we have active discussion with among banks as well as Bank Negara to address few issues. Among others, whether the processes, for example, those businesses that have existing financing from other banks, for example, and they come to SME Bank to get financing. Based on the SOP, we have to get consent from other banks to allow us to give financing, right? So these are the operational issues that banking industry is trying to address. Yes, CGC and SJPP has beefed up their operation, and they have lended their hands to make sure the processing and the fund can be channeled to the entrepreneurs timely. So this is the process that all banks is going through now. As far as SME Bank is concerned, we have improvised our process. In fact, before the COVID-19, we are looking at the end-to-end and try to remove redundancy to make sure that this small ticket financing can be processed and channeled to the entrepreneur timely.
Okay, so moving on to SME Bank, give us a bit of details in terms of your capital size, the amount of funding you have on hand. How do you access your funding sources, and what's your cost of funding?
Yeah, of course, our based on the annual report last year, 2018, our capital is around 1.8 billion ringgit. But for the SRF and other financing during this COVID-19, is not really an issue, because the fund is being provided by the central bank, by the Bank Negara. So we don't have issue in terms of funding for the SRF. In fact, not only SRF, for our day-to-day financing, we're still processing like normal. Given our staff now, most of them are working from home, but we're still delivering and process the normal application as it is. So again, to fund the SRF is not really an issue. Bank Negara has increased the facility from 2 billion to 5 billion. In fact, Chung, if I may share with you, post-COVID-19, what else they can tap? SRF is just, as I mentioned, is just during this period. There are a lot of facility provided by the central bank through the banking system, which is like automation and digitalization facilities. You have agri-food facilities. You have the all economic sector facilities. So there are a lot of avenues and facility provided through by central bank through all the banks in Malaysia. In terms of, if you look at it from the capital perspective, banks in Malaysia has been resilient to face this kind of crisis. I don't foresee any capital issue given the moratorium, and if we need to assist our clients during this period.
What about things like existing clientele in terms of your risk framework and the performance of some of these loans? How, until COVID-19, how have these your clients been performing in terms of NPLs, in terms of how do you also assess ongoing clients?
If I look back, into the portfolio since I first joined in 2018, September 2018, of course, the bank we have an issue when it comes to asset quality. However, there are a lot of initiative and improvement in terms of risk framework. We have.
What are your NPLs at this point in time, Arya?
Our NPL right now is still double digit, around 19%. It was peaked at 28%. So the improvement is quite significant. This is purely because, as I mentioned, we improvise our internal processes, risk framework, and right now, all our RMs, our relationship manager, has been very active engaging clients, because running a business, providing financing to SMEs is not a straightforward financing as in retail or in the big corporate. This group of client or these SMEs, they need a hand holding. They need active engagement by our team. So we have crafted out the framework and the activities for RM to actively engage the entrepreneur, and this has resulted a significant improvement in our asset quality. Besides that, we have a subsidiary called SEDA. SEDA is our training arm, or the hand-holding arm that we have been deploying to work very closely with our banking or financing team, where it has shown a significant improvement in terms of SMEs businesses, which has translated into our good performance last year.
I'm talking this morning to Arya Putra Ismail, the Chief Executive of SME Bank, and also the Chairman of the Association of Development Finance Institutions of Malaysia, otherwise known as ADFIM. After this, Arya, we'll talk further about the MCO, the COVID-19, as well as some of the issues that you face in terms of getting funding to the SME sector, BFM 89.9.
You are listening to the BFM Breakfast Grill, brought to you by U Mobile.
I'm talking this morning to Arya Putra Ismail, the Chief Executive of SME Bank and the Chairman of ADFIM, which is the Association of Development Finance Institutions of Malaysia. Arya, with the COVID-19 and the requirement to get funds to the SME sector, do you think that your NPLs might balloon again because of the impact of COVID-19 on so many of the industry and economy in Malaysia?
To answer that, I mean, this is the issue faced by all banks post COVID-19, where we do foresee a potential increase in risk, which will be translated into a not so good asset quality. But I think with the proactive action to be taken by banks, for example, by SME Bank, we have strategy how to make sure that our asset quality will continue to improve even post COVID-19. So again, not only the financing part, but we have the hand holding, and we will make sure that the cash of our clients post COVID-19 can be sustainable. So we have the strategy, and we have already started to engage our clients to make sure that they are not badly affected post COVID-19.
Well, how will you ensure that asset quality continues to trend lower or better? Because some of the traditional banking safety nets, like risk profile and of course higher borrowing costs, that will remain presumably. There's also things like documentation, which is of course necessary, but both will appear to be at risk in this COVID-19 because people want money and they want it fast. They don't have time to put together documents for you.
Yeah. Okay. For the, I mean, maybe I just want to make it clear. For the SRF, it's not like if you ask for $1 million, we will give you $1 million. We still be looking at what really the amount that you need. So that's what the framework that we have, put in our policies or guidelines for this SRF. And for post COVID-19, how can we make sure that the asset quality will keep to improve going forward? Is we have started our plan to potentially we will be doing some R&R on certain accounts, which we believe that certain sectors could not be able to pick up as fast. So those sectors that are not able to pick up as fast post COVID-19 will be lending our hands and work very closely with them on how to make sure that their cash flow and their obligation to pay the bank can be sustainable. So that's how we are addressing the potential risk faced by the SMEs post COVID-19.
I'm talking this morning to Arya Putra Ismail, the CEO of SME Bank and the chairman of ADFIM, the Association of Development Finance Institutions of Malaysia. Arya, but even without COVID-19, there seems to be a disconnect between what you believe the SME sector needs in terms of funding and the SME sector themselves, who appear to be in a different world when it comes to their funding requirements. And Bank Negara has been very vocal about this in the past, saying that there's a lot of misconceptions in the market between what people think. People publicly think that not enough money is being put aside for the SMEs, but that is not quite the case. And a lot of this divide is based on things like a lack of trust issues, maybe some documentation concerns, things like not enough risk management controls being in place. And then there's also the fact that as a lot of SME owners are cautious in taking on debts, or found the whole process too difficult. How do you think the SME funding world can change in the wake of COVID-19?
Yeah, we all know that during this MCO, that there is quite a restricted movement by all of us to submit documentation and everything. This is where banks need to change the process to make sure that all the application can still be done as usual. Most of the bank, in fact, all the banks, are relying on submissions through, for example, emails, and then the verification will be done later, and that's how we try to ease the process of application. When it comes to risk, of course, as a bank, we don't really compromise risk given the current situation. So we are really looking at whether is it a real need for the fund for the SMEs who applied for the facility? So we have to be, it has to be a judgment call that we have to make. And just want to share with you, there are applications that has been rejected because of a significant issue even before COVID-19. So that's the only reason why application has been rejected. Otherwise, either we will meet the request or we will reduce their request to make sure that that the cash flow won't get stuck post COVID-19. And what I want to say, Chung, I think SMEs, please do not look at financial as the only things that they need in the business. Reskilling is very important right now. It's very significant, and I'm happy to share with you, Chung. I've seen, especially micro and small, they're more agile. Why I'm saying they're more agile is more of these micro and small SMEs, they have changed their business model. If previously this is purely brick and mortar, you have various branches to sell a product. So you have a traditional way of marketing your things. Now, this micro and small have moved away from those traditional marketing. They've been using e-commerce to reach out to the bigger markets. So, this financial assistance given by the government and financing given by the bank is just to make sure that sustainability is there, but they must take this opportunity to do a bit more research, to be more resilient and agile, adjusting to the changes in the consumer behavior that happening globally.
Okay, there's also the other elements of borrowing cost. And I think one of the surveys mentioned that the average financing rate that respondents in that survey was willing to pay was 3.9%. And that's of course a lot lower than the average lending rates to SMEs of about 6.2%. This is at the time of the survey in the second quarter of 2018. You are funded by Bank Negara and you've got government-backed financing. Why can't you pass on these low borrowing costs to SMEs? Because after all, they are the engine of the economy.
Actually, the way bank pricing the product is based on risk and return framework. So the higher the risk, the higher the rate, so that it can be balanced and we can achieve not only financial goal expected by the shareholders, but also the impact that we will be creating after receiving the fund. So I agree with you. The rate given to the SMEs is a bit higher as compared to those funds that been channeled by Bank Negara. This is purely because of risk return framework. The way we price our facility. This is also to safeguard the public money. Because if the public has no confidence on the bank and in how they are managing their savings with the bank, and the bank has to suffer, a high NPL, I'm afraid that a bigger risk or the bigger deposit run will happen in our country. So, in short, I don't really agree with with the remark saying that the bank is overcharging the SMEs, because this is against back to the risk return framework that the bank has to to analyze.
So how does it work going forward? Because SMEs and your NPLs are really elevated. As you mentioned before you came in, it was around about 28%, and now they're still in the high teens, 19%. Are you saying that if you offered easier lending terms, your NPLs will get even worse? Or is there another way forward?
Talking about SME Bank, I'm very optimistic that our NPL will continue to be lower going forward, given the current condition and post COVID-19. And what we have done so far, of course, at the inception or at the very beginning, when the businesses came to us and we give financing, of course, at quite a high rate, but eventually we will be adjusting the rate, provided that their performance is justified, provided their profitability has performed very well. Because at the end of the day, we will be channeling this good portfolio to commercial banks, for them to enjoy a better rate from the commercial bank. And that's what has been mandated to us, and our sets of clients are those SMEs that are not able to go and get facility from commercial banks. So this is what we've been doing so far. This is the time where most of the SME will be operating at home. They have plenty of time to think, to do research, to see what would be the new opportunity that will come out post COVID-19. There will be plenty of opportunities. The thing is, they must stay agile. They can't really think that their business, as what they've been doing before, is sustainable. People like us has changed our lifestyle. We used to go to Mama and get nasi biryani. Now we just do online. And if previously in our pocket we have wallets and handphone, right now we have sanitizer. There are things that has changed consumer behavior. And my advice to SMEs, please revisit your business model, be more agile, look for new opportunities that will come up post-COVID-19.
Okay, Arya, thank you for your thoughts, and thank you for talking to me. I was talking to Arya Putra Ismail, the CEO of SME Bank and the chairman of the Association of Development Finance Institutions of Malaysia, ADFIM, BFM 89.9.
The Breakfast Grill is brought to you by U Mobile, encouraging you to stay home during this period of movement control.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To find more great interviews, go to bfm.my or find us on iTunes. BFM 89.9, the business station.